to just another stitch. My name is Connie, and today we're going to start week 1 of the Frankie Scarf Crochet-A-Long. And the way that I do my make-alongs is also done in the style of a tutorial. So this is a video you can come back to at any time to make this scarf. I am going to walk you through everything. So what you're going to need for this week's portion of this make-along is some green 4-weight yarn, some black 4-weight yarn, and some purple 4-weight yarn. And then you'll also need a 5mm crochet hook, scissors, and 2 stitch markers. And I would also advise having a tape measure around too. So let's get started. Okay, so this scarf is going to be done in the even moss stitch. So we are going to do our slip knot. Okay. And remember, you want to leave enough of it in to weave in. So you take your yarn and you make a loop like this. Show you again. You just cross it over like that. Then you take your yarn and pull it through. Now grab your 5mm crochet hook. Okay. Put it like that, and we are going to chain 35. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, come on, go through, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35. Okay, so we have 35 chains on our crochet. That we've done now. And now we're going to start row 1. Okay, so for row 1, we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So you go in right there and do a single crochet. And then we're going to continue doing single crochets till the end of the chain. So you will have 34 single crochet stitches. Oops, it's being stubborn. Okay, and you just keep doing your single crochet stitches, and we'll meet back up when you get to the end of this row. Okay, you should now have 34 stitches. And one thing I did forget to mention earlier, this part of the scarf you want to do in your green colored yarn. And I'm using Red Heart's Super Saver and Spring Green. Okay, so let me put my hook back. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1, turn your work, and put your stitch marker, especially if you're a beginner. And I did forget to mention to put your stitch marker at the beginning of the row. That helps you to recognize where the row starts and ends. Okay. So in the very first stitch, you want to do a slip stitch. And your first stitch is always a slip stitch. Okay, so now we're going to get into the repeat part of the row. So you're going to do a half double crochet stitch. You yarn over, go into that second stitch, okay, yarn over again, go through the base part of the stitch, and you should have 3 loops on your hook. You yarn over again, go through all 3 loops. Then the next, you're going to do a slip stitch, and you just go through that stitch. See, that's what the stitch looks like. You yarn over, go through that part of the stitch and the other part. And now we're doing a half double crochet again. Yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over again, go through the base part, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Now we're doing a slip stitch. You go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the other loop. And you just keep repeating half double crochet stitch, then a slip stitch, all the way to the end. And your last stitch will end with a half double crochet stitch. So let's do a half double crochet again. Yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base part of the stitch, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through all 3. Now we're doing the slip stitch, go through your stitch, oops, yarn over, go through the base part, and go through the other loop. So now it's a half double crochet, yarn over, oops, sorry about that. I'm at an awkward angle, so it makes it harder. Okay, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, yarn over, go through all 3. Now we're doing a slip stitch. Go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, and go through the other loop. Okay, I'll do this one more time. Okay, yarn over. This is a half double crochet. Go through the stitch, yarn over, go through the base, three loops on the hook, yarn over, go through all 3. Next stitch is a slip stitch. Go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, and pull through the other loop. Okay? And like I said, just keep doing. The next stitch is a half double crochet, then a slip stitch, and you keep repeating that half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, stitch, slip stitch. And we're going to meet back up when you have 1 stitch left on this row. Okay, so you just did a slip stitch and you have 1 stitch left, and that last stitch is always a half double crochet. So yarn over, okay, yeah, you yarn over, go through the stitch, okay, yarn over again, go through the base stitch, you have 3 loops, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Okay, so now you want to chain 1, turn your work, adjust your stitch marker. Okay, and this row right here is your repeat row, and this is the row you're going to keep doing. Okay, and one thing I do want to point out, and this is very important. Okay, your first stitch you're going to be doing a slip stitch. You do not go in through this loop right here. You go in right here. You see? Okay. So let's do our slip stitch. Go through that stitch right here. Yarn over, pull through the base, and then the other loop. Okay. And now we're going to basically keep doing half double crochet, slip stitch across the row. This row is pretty much identical to the previous row. The only difference is you got to be careful about that loop that I recently showed you. Okay, so now we're going to do a half double crochet stitch. So yarn over, go through your stitch, yarn over, pull through the base. You have 3 loops left, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops. And now you're going to do a yarn over. And remember what I said. You have this loop right here. you do not go through that. You go through the stitch right here. Okay, so you're going to do a yarn over. I'm sorry, you're going to go through the stitch. Sorry about that. Then you yarn over, pull through the base, and the, oops, and the other loop. Okay. And again, we do a half double crochet stitch, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Next stitch, you're going to do a yarn over. Let's see. Okay, we have our yarn over done. And as you're probably noticing, on the previous row where you did your half double crochet stitches, you're doing a yarn over on this row and vice versa. All right, so we're going to just keep doing half double crochet, slip stitch all the way across, and we'll meet back up when there's 1 stitch left. Okay, you just finished a slip stitch and you have 1 lone stitch left. All right, so that last stitch, like I said, it's always a half double crochet stitch. So yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, go through all, oops, okay, let's do this again. All right, half double crochet stitch, yarn over, let me remove my stitch marker, it's getting in my way. Okay, so we do our yarn over, go through the base of the stitch, or the stitch I mean, yarn over again, go through the base, 3 loops left, yarn over, go through all 3. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And you see that pretty texture? Okay, so add your stitch marker back. And we're just going to do the same thing we did on that last row. First stitch is a yarn over. And again, I want to remind y'all, do not go through right here. The stitch is back here. You see? Right there. Okay, so we're yarning. Now we're going through the stitch. Yarn over, go through the base, and go through the other loop. Now we're on the repeat portion, which is half double crochet and yarn over, not yarn, I'm sorry, half double crochet and slip stitch. So yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, go through the base, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Now we get to that slip stitch again. Okay, yarn over, pull through the base, and go through the other loop. Now we're going to do half double crochet stitch, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Now we get to the slip stitch again. And again, I want to remind y'all, you don't want to go through here. The stitch is back there. You see? There's a stitch. But you have that piece that's right under. Alright, so let's go through it. The stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, and pull through the loop. Alright, so we're going to just keep doing half double crochet, slip stitch all the way across, and we'll meet back up when there's 1 stitch left. Okay, you just did a slip stitch and you have 1 stitch left. So let's remove our stitch marker, and we're going to do a half double crochet stitch in that last stitch. Yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Alright, now we're going to chain 1, turn our work, put your stitch marker back. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through this last row here, and then at that point you should have what to do. Okay, so again, we're gonna do a slip stitch in that first stitch. You don't go through here, you go through back here, you see? So go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, and pull through the other loop. Okay. Next stitch is a half double crochet, so yarn over, go through your stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Now we're going to do a slip stitch in the next, and remember, don't go through that very first loop here. Go through the actual stitch. Yarn over, pull through the base, and pull through. Okay, then we go back to a half double crochet, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, 3 loops, yarn over, go through all 3. And we do another another slip stitch. Like I said, you don't go through here. You go through that. Good. So I'm going through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base, and then the other loop. Okay, and you just keep doing half double crochet, slip stitch, until you have one stitch left, and we'll meet back up there. Okay, you just did a slip stitch and you have that one stitch left. Okay, take out your stitch marker, and we're going to do a half double crochet into the last stitch. Yarn over, pull through the base, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Okay, so basically the rest of the scarf is pretty repetitious. You're basically doing the same thing throughout the scarf. The only difference is the color changes. And when we get into Frankie's hair, there's part of the hair where you're going to be alternating between green and black yarn. So I want you to continue doing what we've been doing, where you chain 1, turn your work, first stitch is a slip stitch, then you keep repeating half double crochet, slip stitch all the way until you have 1 stitch left, and that last stitch you'll do a half double crochet stitch. And you keep repeating that until your work measures about 8 inches. And we'll meet back up there. And I will put in the text on the screen how many rows I did. It may vary for you based on your tension. But this green section, you want it 8 inches when we meet back up, okay? Do not do the last stitch on the last row. We're going to meet back up and do that last stitch together because we're going to be incorporating the black yarn on the next row. Okay, you should now have 10 rows of green done. And this is my section of green rows. So it should be about that big. Like I said, 8 inches. And I did 30 rows of the repeat row. Now, I had a little problem with my filming where something happened where this little section of the video did not film. So I'm going to have to use a little small piece here to show you, basically to finish off the row in the first 6 stitches on the next row. But that's why this piece is so short. So at this point, you want to have 4 balls made of black yarn, pretty much looking like this, and then 3 of your green yarn. All right, because you're going to be going back and forth between the black and the green yarn. Okay, so we're going to finish this last stitch. We're going to start it off with the green. It's a oopsie. It's a half double crochet stitch. I forgot my yarn over. All right, yarn over. Go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the base. So you have your 3 loops left. And at this point, you want to cut your green yarn. Leave a long enough tail to weave in your end. And now you're going to grab one of your balls of black yarn. And we're going to finish that stitch. Okay. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn your work. Okay. So the way this row is going to work is your first 6 stitches will be done in black yarn. The next 5 will be done in green yarn. Then the next 4 stitches will be black. The following 4 stitches will be green. And then you have 4 stitches in black. Then the next green section will be 5 stitches in green. And the last 6 stitches will be done in black. So this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, we're gonna add that stitch marker. And we're gonna do a half double, I'm sorry, scratch that. We're gonna do a slip stitch into that first stitch. And remember, you want to go through the actual stitch that's more at the top. You see how you got that bore right there? That loop, you don't want to go through that. All right. First stitch done. Now a half double crochet. That's 2. Now a slip stitch. That's 3. Half double. That's 4. Slip stitch. That's 5. All right, and now we're gonna start a half double crochet in the black, but we're not gonna finish it in black, okay? You go through the base, and this is where we put our black yarn down, and we grab our green ball of yarn. And we're going to use the green yarn to finish the stitch. So you're just wrapping this around like so. See, end piece over here. This is the side that connects to the yarn. And you basically just kind of grab them and you feed it through the stitch. But make sure you have a long enough tail to weave in your ends. Okay, I'm just realizing this whole row did not film. So I'm going to have to finish this row with y'all. I do not know what happened. I must have forgotten to hit the record button, is my guess. Okay. So the next 5 stitches are going to be done in green. So we're gonna do a slip stitch, half double crochet, that's 2, slip stitch, 3, half double, 4, and we're going to start the slip stitch in green. All right, leave your 2 loops, and now we're going to grab another ball of black yarn. All right. Again, just wrap the yarn around your hook, leave a long enough tail to weave in your ends, and you want to hold it. and just go through those 2 stitches. All right, so the next 4 stitches are going to be done in black yarn. So we're going to do a half double crochet stitch, let me pull that green yarn. Okay, all right, now a slip stitch, half double crochet, and we're going to start a slip stitch, go through the base. Now don't finish that stitch. We're going to grab another ball of green yarn to finish that stitch. So wrap it around, leave a long enough tail to weave in your end. All right, and just go through your 2 loops. All right, so the next 4 stitches are going to be done in green yarn. So half double crochet, slip stitch, half double, all right, and we're going to begin a slip stitch, go through the base, leave your 2 loops, but we're not going to finish it in green. So we're going to grab another ball of black yarn, and we're going to use that to finish it. Okay, so wrap it around, leave a long enough tail to weave in your end, okay, and go through those 2 loops. All right, so the next 4 stitches are going to be in black yarn. So half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, and we're going to start a slip stitch in black. Go through the base, leave your 2 loops, but we're not going to finish it in black. And now we're going to grab another ball of the green yarn, and we're going to finish that stitch, and we're just wrapping it around. You see, that's all you're doing. All right, I just like to hold it tight when I'm going through the stitch. And let me pull that black yarn again. All right, now the next 5 stitches are going to be in green. So half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, And we're going to start a half double in green. All right, go through the base. All right, you have your 3 loops remaining, and we're going to grab our last ball of black yarn, if I can find it. I should have another thing of black yarn. We'll use this. Give me just 1 second. Okay. All right. So wrap that around. Leave a long enough tail to weave in your ends. Go through those last 3. And now your last 6 stitches are going to be done in black. So we're going to do a half double crochet. I'm sorry. That stitch we just did, that's a slip stitch. So the first stitch in black is a slip stitch, then a half double crochet. Then a slip stitch. Half double. Slip stitch. Okay, and this last stitch is a half double. All right, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work, and you want to get all your yarn balls repositioned and organized. Okay, you want to adjust your stitch marker. And now we're going to start the next row. It's going to be exactly the same way. All right. So that first stitch is going to be a slip stitch. And I'm just noticing I did not put my stitch marker on right. I don't know what I did there. All right. That's okay. There. I just marked the first stitch. Okay. So now we're going to do a half double. Then a slip stitch. Then a half double. Okay, then a slip stitch. All right, and then we're going to start a half double, but we're not gonna finish it in black. We're gonna yarn over and go through the base. You have 3 loops left. So now you want to grab your green yarn that's connected to the next stitch. Okay, and you want to make sure your yarn goes in the back, on the back row, the side that you're going to weave in your ends. Okay, so you finish that stitch off in green. Okay, now you're going to do 5 stitches in the green yarn. So your next stitch is a slip stitch. Then a half double. Then a slip stitch, then a half double, then a slip stitch, all right, you got 2 loops left, and this is where we want to grab our black yarn that's connected. And we finish going through those 2 loops. Okay, so now we're going to do 4 stitches in black yarn, and we're going to do a half double, slip stitch, half double, and a slip stitch. All right, 2 loops left on that last slip stitch. Now we're gonna grab the green yarn that's connected next, yarn over and pull through those last 2, and we're going to be doing 4 stitches in the green. So half double crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, and a slip stitch. All right, remember, don't finish it off. Have your 2 loops and grab your black yarn. Yarn over and go through. Now we're going to be doing 4 stitches with the black yarn. Yarn over for a half double, slip stitch, half double, and a slip stitch. And remember, don't finish it off, leave the 2 loops, move on to your green yarn. But you see, it's connected right there, so make sure you grabbing the right ball of yarn. All right, yarn over and pull through. All right, now we're going to do 5 stitches in green yarn, half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, half double, but we're not going to finish the stitch off. You yarn over, pull through the base, 3 loops left, grab your black yarn, yarn over, pull through, and the last 6 stitches we do in the black yarn. So slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and as always your last stitch is a half double, did I get both? Yeah. Let me do that again. Let me pull out the stitch marker. Okay. All right, there it goes. All right, and chain 1 and turn. And now get your yarn reorganized for the next row, and we're going to be doing the same exact thing. Okay, your first 6 stitches are going to be in the black yarn, and we're going to start off with a slip stitch, and I'm trying to find my stitch. Okay, there it is. Okay. Y'all know how black yarn is. Okay. Now we're going to do a half double in the next stitch. Slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and a half double. And remember, do not finish the stitch off. Leave your 3 loops on and grab your green yarn here. Yarn over and go through. Now we're going to do the next 5 stitches in green. Slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, half double, and a slip stitch, but don't finish it. Go through the base, 2 loops, and now we're grabbing our black yarn. yarn over, and go through the other 2 loops. Now we're going to be doing 4 stitches in black yarn. Yarn over for a half double, slip stitch, half double, and a slip stitch, but don't finish it. Leave your 2 loops, and now we're going to grab the next green yarn. Yarn over and pull through. Now we're going to do a half double, a slip stitch, half double, and a slip stitch, but don't finish it. Leave the 2 loops like that. Alright, grab your black yarn now, yarn over and pull through. Now we do 4 stitches in black yarn, half double, yarn over, slip stitch. For some reason I want to keep saying yarn over for the slip stitch. Alright, half double, and a slip stitch, but don't finish it. Leave your 2 loops, grab the next green yarn, yarn over and pull through. Now we do 5 stitches in green yarn, yarn over, half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and a half double, but don't finish the stitch. Leave your 3 loops and grab the last ball of black yarn, yarn over, and finish the stitch. Now your last 6 stitches are done in black yarn, and we're doing a slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and your last stitch is a half double. Chain 1 and turn your work, and we are going to reposition our yarn and get it organized and untangled. Okay, you want to grab your stitch marker and attach it, and the first 6 stitches are going to be in black yarn. You're doing the same exact thing as the previous 3 rows. Now the good news is this is the last row for quite a while that is in two different colors. On the next row after this, you go back to working solid color rows for quite a while. Okay, so that first stitch is a slip stitch. Then a half double. Then a slip. All right, then a half double. Then a slip. And a half double, but we're not completing it. Leave your 3 loops. And at this point, you need to cut your black yarn. Leave a long enough tail to weave in your ends. All right, so now we're going to grab our green yarn over, and complete the stitch. So we have 5 stitches that we'll be doing in the green yarn. So yarn over, I'm sorry, don't yarn over. We're doing a slip stitch. Okay, go through. All right, now it's a half double. And a slip stitch. And a half double. And a slip stitch, but don't finish it. Leave your 2 loops, and we're going to cut the green yarn now. And leave a long enough piece to weave in. Now grab the next black. Yarn over and go through. All right, okay, the next 4 stitches are going to be in black yarn. We're going to do a half double, a slip stitch, a half double, and a slip stitch, but leave your 2 loops, and we're cutting the black yarn. Leave a long enough end piece to weave in your ends. And now we're going to grab the next green. Yarn over, finish your stitch. Now we're going to do a half double. That's the first stitch. The second stitch is a slip stitch, then a half double for the third, and then a slip stitch, but don't complete it. Leave your 2 loops. Cut the green with a big enough strand end piece to weave in your ends. Now we grab the next black yarn, yarn over, go through those loops. All right, 4 stitches in black yarn, half double, slip stitch, half double, okay, it just totally slipped out. All right, and the 4th stitch is a slip stitch, but again, don't complete it. Leave the 2 loops, and we're going to cut it and leave a long enough strand to weave in your ends. Grab your next green yarn, and we're going to complete this stitch. Let me pull this. All right, the next 5 stitches will be in green yarn. Half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and a half double. And remember, don't complete it. Leave your 3 loops and cut your green yarn. All right. So now we finish the stitch with the black yarn, and the last 6 stitches are in black. So let's see, we're going to do a yarn over, not yarn over, slip stitch, sorry, half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and that last stitch is a half double. Hold up. Let me remove the stitch marker. Okay, now one thing I am going to do, because we're going to be working a few rows in black and I need more yarn, I'm going to go ahead and cut this now with the 3 loops and grab some more yarn. Okay, so I'm going to wrap my new black yarn around and go through those 3 loops. And then I'm going to chain 1, and turn my work. Okay, we're going to be doing 6 rows using black yarn, and we're doing the same thing as before. So I'm attaching my stitch marker, and you start your row off with a slip stitch, and remember, don't go through that bottom loop, go through the actual stitch. Alright, then a half double, then a slip stitch, and you just keep doing half double slip stitch until you get to your last stitch. And remember, that last stitch is always a half double crochet. And then you chain 1, turn, and after this row you do 5 more rows completely in solid black. So you'll have 6 rows of solid black, and we'll meet back up once you have your 6 rows. And on that 6th row, do not do the last stitch, because we're gonna have to incorporate the purple yarn on that last stitch. So we'll meet back up at that point. Okay, we are on that 6th row, and we have all the stitches done but the very last stitch. And that last stitch is a half double crochet stitch. So yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, go through the base. And now we're going to cut the black yarn. And we're going to grab our purple yarn. And we wrap it around our needle. Leave a long enough tail to weave in your ends. Okay, and just pull it through the last 3 stitches, or the last 3 loops, I should say. Okay, this is fighting me. Okay, there it is. Okay, now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Okay, now we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. We're going to go through that first stitch and do a slip stitch, and then the next stitch we're going to do a half double crochet, and then another slip stitch, okay, and you just keep doing half double crochet, slip stitch until you get to the last stitch. That last stitch is always a half double crochet stitch, then you chain 1, turn, and then you just do a slip stitch in the first stitch, and then you keep repeating half double crochet, slip stitch all the way to the end until you have 1 stitch left, and that's always your half double crochet stitch. Okay, and you're just going to keep doing that on every row until your piece measures 50 inches, and that's from the bottom of the green measuring up long ways. You want it to measure 50 inches. And when you get to that last row, do not do the last stitch. That's where we're going to meet back up at, right before the last stitch. And another thing too, do an even amount of rows, because you want your last row of the purple to end, be on the side with all the end pieces that you have to weave in. And this will conclude week 1's part of this Crochet-A-Long tutorial. And I will see you next week for the next part of this tutorial. So I hope y'all are all having a fabulous day. Be the light, and bye.